Welcome to the Nehemiah Entrepreneurship Community Podcast. I'm your host, Patrice Tsague. I'm here today with Brian Buhler. Brian Buhler is our home office coach. He's also a Christian professional with ideas. Brian is a biblical entrepreneurship trainer and coach with Kingdom Business Coaching. He has an MBA and a BS in computer science and 29 years of business and technology experience. Brian has had expertise in the area of industry engineering, web, software development, information services, network, and system administration project. He's done work in those areas, including others in countries like India, Mexico, West Indies, Brazil, and of course, Lebanon. And so he has a broad understanding of international business. Brian currently runs our, as a home office coach, he runs our classes on the self-study courses. So if you take any self-study with us, Brian is your instructor. He also runs a class with Frank Katanga in Kenya. So those of you from Kenya, you may recognize Brian because he's an instructor there. Brian also won the 2020 Trainer of the Year. I have Brian today to talk about the crisis in Lebanon. Brian, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Patrice. Good to be here.
Well, Brian, I know that Lebanon is very dear to your heart. An incident occurred there several weeks ago, and want to have you on the podcast to talk about it because you are doing some things to help in that area, and we'll get into it. And so, friends, today's focus is going to be really around the Lebanon situation. Brian has lived in Lebanon. He recently was there until recently. And he's going to kind of educate us about the situation. Why should we care? How can we help? And so forth. But before we get into Lebanon, however, I want to kind of just, for you to get to know Brian a little bit and kind of give you a little background. So, Brian, you serve as a Christian professional with ideas in several countries around the world. And first, what led you, Brian, to this kind of work, and has been your experience?
Well, I've always felt called to areas of greatest need to, use my gifts and professional skills with a desire to transform lives, and just like the idea of restoring hope. I'm kind of a perpetual hope machine. I don't know. I just like to see hope injected into communities, and so using the skills I've obtained and were given. As well as my experiences, I like to be able to connect in that, and that's why I like working with ideas because we focus on overlooked and forgotten peoples. Using professional skills, we restore hope, transform lives, and also what has drawn me into Nehemiah, the same kinds of things. Where we're looking to do a holistic approach to business and doing business God's way.
Awesome, Brian. I'm just trying to imagine young Brian. Coming up as a teenager, a young adult. Is that kind of what you had in mind to do? I mean, is that since then? I mean, talk to me about teenage years, young adult years, college. Is this kind of what you thought about?
Patrice, I've always thought I'd go to Africa.
Is that right?
I had a third grade teacher who was a missionary in Africa. And I thought, this is great. I think, there's a lot of people in need there. And maybe this is where I should go. So I've always had kind of a mindset to go overseas. And as I grew, figuring out what talents and gifts I have, it eventually evolved into using my professional skills.
Wow. So you've always kind of been, in a sense, for lack of a better word, missional. Somebody who really is making decisions based on helping others, serving and so forth. What brought about this? Were your parents in service organizations? Were there mission organizations? Were there in nonprofit? Were there teachers? Tell me a bit about the background that shaped this thing so early for you.
Yeah, well, my family are a family of teachers. So my father was a grade school principal, and he'd done that for many years. Teacher before that, obviously. My mother was a teacher. Most of my siblings are teachers, my aunts and uncles. And even we found on the Ellis Island list, aside from farmer, servant, and then teacher. So as our family entered the U.S. So yeah, that's always been in the background of my mind. And my kind of a family legacy, a lot of people doing teachings, outreach work. Also, my mother was the church secretary for some time. We would have missionaries over all the time. And there was always that mindset in front of me that there's a great need out beyond our borders.
Wow, that is awesome. So tell me, so you, you met your wife one of these days and you said, "Hi, honey, I just so you know, I'm going to serve in Africa." I mean, how did that? So tell me about the courting and how your wife discovered this calling you and how how she embraced it.
Well, I got married later in life. It took a while. So by the time we got to that, I was pretty well focused on where I'm going to go. And, Africa moved out of the picture at that point. And so I was looking at India
Mm.
and being part of the singles community in our church. One of the things we were talking about, what would be a great honeymoon? And I said, well, how about a mission trip? And apparently a lot of the girls are going, oh, that's just Brian, but this, she was there. And so she heard that. Oh, that would be interesting.
Wow. So
So
literally what drew her to you was your heart for others.
I'd like to think so.
Wow. So you have the right one there. And along the way, you guys now, but what's interesting about you though, along the way, you chose to get an MBA. So for you, it's not, when people hear the word mission, they kind of think of the traditional Christian mission service. You are a Christian professional. So which means for you, it was about providing hard skills and acumen for the most needed, for the most vulnerable in the world. It's almost like here in the U.S., you might have impact investor, people that bring capital to areas of most need with a multi-bottom line, or you may have what they call social enterprises. So tell us a bit about this idea of a Christian professional and how that is different than what we typically think of as missionaries.
Yeah, Christian professional. We are who we are. I'm as I went over initially as a technician, a programmer, an IT director, and I serve using the gifts that God has given me to transform lives in the community. And so we don't run around doing other things, but we focus on being who we are, and that includes being who we are in Christ. And we serve and operate out of integrity. We meet needs. We see what the needs are, and we use those gifts and skills for God's glory.
Wow, I love it. So, but then for you, business was an important part of that process. So you would think a kid like you, have a heart for the vulnerable, would not think business, would think like your parents, teaching, some kind of professional service, not business. Tell me about how that played in and why that was important for you.
I went through, because I started at an early age thinking through that, I had that mindset of, well, I'll do this traditional route. And then I thought, well, I keep getting challenged in different places. How about this? What about this? There's a lot of needs in the marketplace. And I think even Billy Graham said something about the next greatest mission is in the marketplace. And so that really got me thinking. It's like, almost a lot of people can do the traditional way, but why not do something different? Why not find the need in the marketplace and help transform the marketplace into one that can transform lives and communities, so that instead of just hitting one person at a time, you're able to impact a business, and that business can impact the community, and that community can then be a blessing, and have it grow out from there. So that just made a lot of sense to me. Because everyone has to do business of some kind, or they're impacted by business somehow in its everyday life. And so why can't we take these redemptive values into the marketplace and help transform lives that way?
Wow, I love it. And then along to it, by the way, Wenji, welcome. Wenji says, God bless your mission. Thank you, Wenji. Welcome. Thanks for watching and for listening to us today. So Brian, along the way, you then chose to enroll in biblical entrepreneurship and be a part of that. Why biblical entrepreneurship? How has that impacted kind of what you do and how you do it?
I back up a little bit. I left India, went through kind of a succession plan in there, and I had some ideas that I wanted to try. and a lot of things that I learned. I didn't exactly know what I learned. I found a lot of success after some frustration, and then wanted to find out more about that. So I got my MBA from Corban University, and it really labeled a lot of things that I was doing. And I was like, now I know that's why I did this. This is what that was. This is what that means. And it wrapped everything up really well. And then I got introduced to Nehemiah Project, and it expanded it even more. It's like I've seen you've had this written down as a mini MBA course. And so I already got my MBA. So, well, this went even deeper in biblical values and ways that put everything together. And so I just really appreciated that and took on that challenge. And the curriculum is amazing. I have students telling me he says, "Wow, you're a great teacher." I was like, "I'm just following the curriculum." It's laid out very well, and it's very informative, very biblical, and I really appreciate it.
Oh, awesome! Now, Brian, there have been a number of people who've had their MBA and then took biblical entrepreneurship. Tell me about how you contract the difference for me, as someone who has a traditional MBA and has gone through biblical entrepreneurship.
I think traditional MBA, mine wasn't necessarily the fully traditional, because of being in Corban University is going to have more of a biblical base to it. But I still feel that it's helpful to have both of those. You're going to get a lot more in depth in different areas of the business administration. But if you want a crash course, or if you don't have time to go through the entire MBA, the biblical entrepreneurship course is a fantastic way to get through it. Or if you need to be refreshed on what you've learned before and have an extra dose of biblical content into what you're doing, and to be able to apply all that. This is where I see biblical entrepreneurship is really helpful with that.
Awesome. And then you became a certified trainer. So now, as home office coach, you actually end up going to Africa after all. You teach virtually in Kenya. Yeah. And then so how's the experience as a trainer and a home office coach? How has that what kind of impact are you seeing?
It's been amazing because when we had to leave Lebanon to care for my mother-in-law, and so that's going as well as can be expected right now. But I thought, great, we're out of the country. How can we continue to connect? And then the pandemic happened, and we started doing everything online. And I'm actually even connected more. And so I don't know if I'm answering your question, but the ability with that carried over into all these other areas. I was with Nehemiah as we transitioned. We just kind of started playing with the idea of the e-community online and doing trainings online. And then when the shutdown happened, it's like, okay, we're ready. And so I think my work has increased because of the shutdown and the ability. I have more of a captive audience now, but and it's also freed up some time for them to take some of these courses. But that's been pretty amazing, and to be able to connect into people's lives. I know that some of the people I've been training in Kenya, I was even asked to do a little bit of coaching with our this year's International Business Plan winner regarding education online, how to do online education. So I was able to mix some of my past experience in India doing IT work and education, and my computer experience and online and web experience, and be able to kind of help coach along and speak into part of her plan. And she went on to win it. So I'm happy to be part of that. And Frank was gracious to recommend me to help her a little bit. But that was amazing.
Now it's interesting that Nina won. Were you surprised that she won as you saw the competition?
Not really. She was brilliant. She just she had every piece nailed down. She knew what she was doing. The presentation was amazing, and she just knows her business. And most of all, she understood the need, and she was able to speak into that very clearly and very well and organized.
Yeah. I mean, some amazing talent in Kenya, as you've been discovering. Just incredible what God is doing there in Kenya. And Frank is an amazing leader. Again, I'm talking to to Brian Buhler. He's with Ideas as a Christian professional. He's also the Nehemiah Home Office trainer, running our self-study biblical entrepreneurship courses, as well as right now working with Frank Chitanga in the BE class in Kenya. We talk about the crisis in Lebanon. We're going to get to it. I'm kind of giving some background so that we understand Brian, his connection with Nehemiah and so forth. Brian, this year you were selected as a 2020 Trainer of the Year for your service. First of all, thank you so much for your service. Congratulations there. You kind of would help pioneer as a trainer. I remember when I was, training, mentor training you, if you will, and then you've kind of taken it over. How has that been, kind of leading that charge all by yourself? And as you think about that award and the fact that part of it was because of how you've pioneered this whole online effort, how's that been for you?
Well, I wouldn't say it's. I still have a team. I got amazing people like Wendy and Deborah and yourself, and then Poe and Sam, and the whole team behind that makes it work. Mm-hmm. All I do is I log in and I start training. Well, and I prepare for it, but that's the whole team behind that makes it possible. And so I can't accept all the credit because you set me up for success, and I'm just happy to be able to see that through.
Awesome. Now, it's funny that you end up being a trainer after all. Your parents were teachers, and so you're kind of continuing the legacy, if you will.
Yeah, you kind of can't help that. It's just, you see teaching modeled, and the fruit doesn't fall far from the tree, I think. So.
That is true. But do you enjoy teaching yourself?
Yeah, I do. I'm once I get into the zone and start teaching, I just enjoy that. And I enjoy seeing people realize something for the first time, or especially we'll probably get to this in a moment, but one of the biggest realizations that a lot of students have is that when they realize that I'm a steward, I'm not the owner, God owns the business. And then the lights go on, and it's just exciting to see that.
Wow. This is awesome. You attended Nehemiah Week Digital this year. You actually did a breakout during Nehemiah Week. It is actually where you were awarded as the 2020 winner, Trainer of the Year. How was that digital experience for you? You've also done the live one. When you look at how that went, how do you think that was?
Yeah, I appreciated that I actually went to the live one first so I can compare the two. So I can have some insight on that. And I think it was amazing, especially since we didn't have to travel and spend all that money. But we were able to accomplish a lot of the primary, the essence of what we do in Nehemiah Week. And we were able to have worship times, amazing worship leader. And we were able to have time of prayer, and as well as training. And then the International Business Plan competition, all of that was great. And the advantage of it also is if you want to go back and watch it again, you can watch it. So the only disadvantage we had, it was more difficult to have more personal relationship time. There's that whole element there. But I think we all realize that we've had to give that up for a time for this. But I think this is a permanent part of the future Nehemiah Weeks, to have that. We still can't get away from the in-person part, but to have that option is great because it enables more people to attend. I've even done that with family reunions that people have never been able to come. I've been able to help set up a Zoom meeting for them, and we're meeting more family members. So,
wow, yeah. I mean, the technology is incredible, the opportunity it gives us, and like you said, nothing can replace that live connection. But with good technology, you can make it work as much as possible. Well, what to me was impressive was the engagement, right? The people's yearning and desire to engage. By the way, if you attend a Nehemiah Week and you miss some sessions, or you want to go back and refresh, the digital version, the on-demand version is available now. So just log on to your e-community platform, and you can go ahead and watch. It's been edited and repurposed and for you. It's on demand. Just go there and check it out and just enjoy yourself. And then for those who did not attend Nehemiah Week and you're saying, I want to take advantage of that. In the next couple of weeks, we're going to have it available for on demand at a small fee for those who did not attend. So be on the lookout for that. Again, I'm talking to Brian Buhler on the Christ in Lebanon. And Brian is the home office coach, a trainer and coach actually for the Nehemiah Project. He's also with Ideas. By the way, Brian, what is Ideas?
Yeah, Ideas is International Development and Educational Associates. They serve overlooked and forgotten people. Their vision is to see transform lives in communities of contagious hope, and their mission is to demonstrate love, serving forgotten and overlooked people by meeting social, intellectual, physical, and spiritual needs.
Oh, wow. Now, why Ideas? What makes that kind of unique organization for you to be a part
of? Because they can, they have that mindset that you go out with integrity, you are who you are, you can maintain yourself as a Christian as well as a professional and transform lives. And so that's why I think this organization is unique in that regard. We are who we are, and we're able to have an impact, especially in areas. And I like their focus in areas of overlooked and forgotten peoples. And so it's not just going anywhere; it's going with intentional into areas of people that are forgotten.
I like the point you make about you are who you are. Now, many folks may be listening and say, why does it keep making that emphasis? And part of the reason, let me take a whack at it, correct me if I'm wrong, is that there are some Christian organizational individuals who go to countries as something other than what they are. In other words, they're truly going as missionaries, but they act as though they're Christian professionals, but they're not really going to do the function of the vocation they're talking about. It's just a means to get into that country. They may say, I'm going to do a business, but they're not really going to set up a business. They're going to do something mock, something not real. And now it's well intended. But what you guys take in the position is, you know what, why fake the funk, as the kids would say? Why pretend to be what we're not? That just be a doctor, be a lawyer, be a nurse, be a teacher, be a business owner. And while you're at it, represent Christ. Is that kind of the take for Ideas?
Yeah, we need to make sure that we are, again, who we say we are. We go in with integrity. We make sure that we're doing what we're expected to be doing, that there's nothing to hide. That's pretty much it. It's just it's not complicated. It's just we want to make sure that we respect local authorities, local governments, and honor them.
I don't want to put you on the spot here, but why would other organizations not do that? I mean, what's the logic there, Brian? Because to me, it makes a lot of sense. But what's the logic? What was the good intention that has been misappropriated, or that has kind of been gone off the rail? Or was there any good intent? I'm sure there was.
Yeah, well, I think while they may have good intentions, I think going into something just because a country or something says, "Oh, if you come in to do this, you can't do that." Well, you need to, there's consequences. So you need to honor the country that you're in. But some people make that decision, and so that's up to them. But I like the idea of, we need to be who we are. It's much easier on your children. You don't have a dual persona. We're just very transparent, and I think transparency is very important. And so we need to make sure that we do that.
So the end does not justify the means. Is that what you're kind of telling us?
Yeah, I don't want to necessarily judge some organizations that might do that, but I would tend to fall on that line. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, I would agree with you. And I think many organizations are realizing that, and they're moving more toward where you are, which I just think that that's the way it should operate. I mean, I think it does better for the ministry itself. It does better for the kingdom, and it keeps people safer, in my view. But let's move off of that. So let's talk about Lebanon, which is kind of why you're here. So you were in Lebanon, and due to your circumstance with your family made a decision, particularly your father-in-law, to leave Lebanon. That must have been tough for you. I'm sure your kids were like, woo-wee, we're going home. But that must have been tough for you with the heart. So tell us a bit about first your time in Lebanon, what you did there, and what led to you coming back home while still serving the country.
Yeah, Lebanon came after about 15 years in India. And I had just finished my MBA, and my wife finished her Master's of Teaching, and we were encouraged with a new focus in Lebanon. My wife started teaching at an evangelical school there, and while she was doing that, I went to kind of feel the pulse of the community for business. What is the marketplace like? And so I spent my first 2 or 3 years, learning culture, learning language, because you can't just go into a country and just start doing business. You need to learn how to respect the culture and also be a continual learner. And so, but during that time, I was able to connect with some good organizations. I met some amazing people. I was asked to help a gentleman who was trying to start a business. And he had some real struggles. He started sooner than he should have, and and there were some additional challenges as well. I can't go into, but it was a great experience to see, how business worked there and to encourage him. And finally, at some point, we realized he needed to pivot completely. So he closed that business and started doing something else. So from there, it was a great time of connection. I was developing relationships, and that's really key. And as we know in Nehemiah and Kingdom Business Coaching, relationships are the foundation of what we do, and as well as for business. And so you're developing relationships, getting to know people, getting to know you, your reputation, your integrity, and so that laid a whole foundation. And then just as things started getting going, I was doing some teaching and training there. My mother-in-law was diagnosed with Parkinson's and dementia. So at that point, my wife went home in the summer to evaluate. I continued on as long as I could, and then we realized, okay, we just need to be home for them. And so we made that decision to leave. But before I left, I made sure that I had connections all set up there, and do my best to continue connecting. And so I think to go on from there will lead into the next question. So I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, thank you. And then now let me go back a little bit to while you were in Lebanon. Why did you guys pick Lebanon? What was so special about that country?
Well, it is a focus of the same reason you picked India, a focus that our church community had, and said there's great needs there. And in the community that we're in, that's our biggest influence. And say, hey, we see great needs over here. Okay, well, let's see how I can. A lot of people won't go, and I'm one of those people that I like to go where people don't go. And so I saw the need there, and wanted to use these gifts and talents that God has given us. My wife is included, and so that's part of the decision that moved us towards Lebanon.
Wow. Wayongi says, teacher's legacy lives on. I agree with that. Thank you for watching. The deposit you're making in people's Wanji said it is a blessing and honor to know you, Brian. Brian, obviously, Wanji knows who you are. Is Wanji from Lebanon, by the way?
Yes, he's from Lebanon.
Wow. Well, is he there now?
Yeah, he's
wow.
chatting from Lebanon.
Wow, Lebanon.
Life group.
I'm sorry?
He's in our life group that we have tomorrow.
Wow. Well, Wanji, good to see you. Welcome. We're praying for you, brother, and for Lebanon. So so you come back. This is prior to COVID-19, and but let's talk a bit. When you got back, you kind of re-engaged and you started some life groups, started some different activities. Let's talk about that, because before the explosion, the well, let's go back a bit. Even when you were in Lebanon, there were issues there. Let's talk a bit about the terrain and the challenges that was happening that you felt that you were hopefully trying to be part of the solution. What was the state like before COVID-19?
Well, if we back up to before October 17th, there's been economic challenges there. People have been frustrated. The ability to do business or set up business, I think Lebanon, I can't remember the exact number, but when you look at a list of how easy is it to start a business, at least for foreigners, Lebanon is one of the most difficult in that regard. There's a lot of loopholes you have to go through, but they've been, plagued with challenges. They had come out of a civil war previously, then the refugee crisis hit, and so then you have nearly at one point 2 million refugees in there from Syria, and a lot of unrest going on, battling issues with border of the nation to the south of Lebanon, and there's been a lot of challenges that they have to face. And then finally, October 17th came around. Something triggered frustration in the people, concerns about corruption in the government, and protests started. Some call it a revolution. And so that just continued on and on and on. And it was across sectarian lines. Everyone joined together. They were just unified. And shortly after, the prime minister stepped down. So that takes us all the way to the issue of COVID. And so up to that point, we had the kids were out of school. Everything was shut down because of protests. And then things started kind of calm a little bit, but protests continued. And then COVID hit and then shut down even more. So then the kids are lucky if they got 7 weeks of school this year. So the economy at this point was pretty much devastated. Many of the banks closed or they froze accounts. So you can't quite access some things. And so I'm not going to speculate on the rest of the issues there. But the Lebanese pound or Lebanese lira lost about 80% of its former value. It used to be at, well, I don't need to give that level, but losing 80% of its value is incredibly high, difficult. Employment estimated maybe about 60% now. And for the first time in about 100 years, groups like the UN or major aid groups are saying, using the word like famine. And so they're either unable to find food, with the war still going on in Syria and other issues. Already before the blast came up, they were already hurting very badly. And so it made the economy very hard. And there's also a huge brain drain. A lot of people are just leaving Lebanon in droves.
Wow. And in the midst of this, Brian, you began some activity. 1G is in your life group. Tell us a bit about, prior even to the blast, some of the things you were doing to serve the Lebanese people, even virtually, in the midst of COVID-19.
Yeah, prior to the blast, I had started actually a life group on Zoom, and was pulling together my connections instead of driving all the way down to Tyre and Tripoli and other places. I was able to, and because of the lockdown, people had a curfew, and so I asked some of my friends, when's a good time to have a life group? And they said like 7 o'clock, because everyone has to be in their home. So I started that and started advertising to have people join, and it's been a great weekly connection to reconnect with them, to spend time in prayer, to encourage one another, focusing on the entrepreneurs in the area, and then encouraging them to either get some coaching or take some classes, and then also helping them to collaborate with each other. It's great to see them connect when they find out where they are in the country, say, hey, let's go meet. So that's been a really exciting thing up to the point of the latest crisis.
Wow. So if you want to be a part of the Brian's life group with Lebanon, just reach out to Brian. Team, put Brian's email address on the so that people can reach out to Brian. You can also visit Nehemiah ecommunity.com and just sign up for live group, and we'll connect you with Brian. Why don't you say we live in Godfidence, the words of the preaching of Patrice, and he's referring to the devotional that we did called Godfidence. Yeah, amen. Thank you so much for that, YG. So I'm trying to imagine, Brian, again, before the blast. So you're working with people like Wanji and others in Lebanon around the world who are in technically a war zone, in situations where it's real tough. How are you keeping them encouraged week by week? I mean, what are the discussions like? I'm trying to imagine in my head.
Oh yeah, a lot of prayer, and listening, and hearing what the needs are and the concerns. But to encourage, also just letting people know that we care, and that there is hope, and then finding word of hope in scripture and through teaching. But the main part is the relationship. Continuing to develop that and not giving up, saying we're here for you no matter what.
Wow, that is awesome. So the blast happens. So tell me a bit. Where were you when it happened? Like, when did you hear about it? And then tell us a bit about that and the implication. Kind of give us an education of that situation that happened in Beirut.
Yeah. So that happened on August 4th. It was in the evening in Beirut. It was morning time here. I'm in Oregon. And I was out walking with my wife and my dog, and I got a video message through WhatsApp. And I have to be careful when I call it so I don't get too emotional. And I saw the blast. And at first I thought, I hope this is fake. And then I recognized the area, and then I started getting all these other reports, and it brought me to tears. That this happened down in downtown Beirut, and there's so many people down there. And so immediately we ran back to the house, and we started connecting with everybody that we can think of to find out, are you okay? Are you okay? Is there anything we can do to help? And then reports just started coming in about what happened. And yeah, it was really sad and shocking.
Wow. And so I'm trying to imagine you going through that, and then I'm trying to figure out how was your next life group discussion like, as people like Wanji that you now had to connect with to kind of talk about first what they're going through. Could you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, it was a difficult time. First of all, we want to make sure that everyone was okay, and so we did our check-ins, and some couldn't make it because they're out helping people, or they're exhausted from helping. I have one of the people in our life groups. He's an engineer, and so he's been taken off his regular tasks to go out and assess buildings and things. And yeah, I think the main thing from that, again, in the relationship, being able to have a safe place to share, to let people know what's going on, to pray together and find out each other's needs. I feel that was encouraging. I remember one of them said that, we're thankful that you care about us, and we're not, we're not going to forget or leave Lebanon alone. We're going to continue to pray and lift them up.
Wow. YG, again, our prayer goes out for you guys in Lebanon and the things you're going through there. So that's kind of happening. And now you've kind of prepared something for us to kind of help us understand what's happening there, so that we can kind of get a picture. Do you want to share that now?
Sure.
Again, I'm talking to Brian Buhler. He's a Christian professional with ideas, and he was in Lebanon for a number of years, and and he's here to educate us about the crisis currently in Lebanon and what we can do about it and how we can help or pray. Brian, go ahead, please.
Okay. Well, first of all, I need to give credit to this slide from my friend Scott. He had a report from Lebanon just the other day, so I didn't put this together. But you've probably seen, if you did any research at all online, you've probably seen this graphic before, showing where the blast happened and then outer rings of destruction. So you have the inner blast site, which happened in the port. There's right next to where most of the grain for Lebanon was supplied, and the blast site, the dark red part, was where there's just complete devastation. I have a friend who's a chiropractor who I think was inside that red area, and so his business, he sent me pictures about what happened there. Fortunately, they were safe. They were blocked by another building. So they didn't get as much of the blast, but it just blew out all their windows, and everything is, from the ceiling and everything is fallen down. So about 200 people are dead or missing, and about 7,000 injured, 300,000 displaced from their homes. This is primarily, I've been told, primarily a kind of a Christian area. So it's pretty devastating, and I know a lot of organizations and churches that are going in there, and they're continuing to help. It's been almost a month now, and they're continuing to help these people that are displaced. I know some of the schools and seminaries have opened up and are housing people there. And estimates so far about $15 billion in damage. That's alone, knowing that they are currently, up to this point, they're about 85 billion in debt. And so 15 billion is a big chunk of that. And what caused it, basically what is going on there, some are saying that there was a hole in the side of the building that they were repairing, and maybe something caught fire in the fireworks around that area. And there was 2,750 tons of ammonium nitrate that was stored there from about 2014. It was confiscated from a Russian freighter that wasn't seaworthy, and so it was impounded, and so it was left there. And then the fire somehow started at some point, and then engulfed that, and then you had the resulting explosion. And some are saying that this is one of the largest man-made explosions in history. So maybe the top third or fourth explosion. So it was heard all the way to Cyprus, if you can imagine.
Wow.
And it blew out windows up to 15 miles away.
Wow, so that's incredible.
Yeah, so that's the statistics of what happened there. You can imagine the human suffering they're going on with now. I have a friend of mine who I do coaching with once in a while. He has a Christian business store, and his son was caught in part of the glass, part of the blast, and so his head to toe, he had like 100 stitches. He's okay, but that's a lot of trauma for a 14-year-old to go through.
Wow. So businesses destroyed, people hurt, including children. But a clear shock to an already suffering economy and nation. And then you saying that this is a predominantly Christian area?
Yeah, that's what I've been told, and so that has a big impact in that community. But fortunately, we have a lot of good organizations in the area. I think the church that I attend there, Resurrection Church, RCB, is reaching out to this area. Heart for Lebanon, an organization that we know well as a relief organization, is having a big impact in there, as well as Youth for Christ is normally not a relief organization, but as in Lebanon, it happens. So they're using their workers to reach out, as well as many other organizations are doing their part.
Wow, that's incredible. Brian, because of this, you launched, or you helped to start various a GoFund, a way just to raise relief support. Tell us a bit about it and how our listening viewers can help.
Okay. There's actually several, and you can go to not only the GoFundMe site, but there's, you can give through Youth for Christ, Heart for Lebanon, Village Baptist Church has one, and my organization Ideas also is a good conduit for those. So whichever one you feel most comfortable giving through. The church, Resurrection Church, where I attend when I'm in Lebanon, they had asked me if I could set one up in the U.S., and so I obliged, and I trust them. And so I've worked with them, and I continue to want to develop a relationship with them. So so that's one way that you can help out is through any number of these GoFundMes or organizations.
And these monies is going towards relief efforts. And tell us a bit about how the importance of these resources that they're raising.
Yeah, these relief efforts, they go to help not only medical. A lot of people have been injured by it, but also to help rebuild. I know that Youth for Christ is helping out. From a report from my friend Scott yesterday. A lot of the buildings that were blown out, the aluminum framing that holds the windows and things, that's all blown out and wasted. So they're able to go in and they contracted with a group that provides replacement frames and windows. And so they, along with a lot of other groups, including RCB, are providing the service and trying to help meet people's needs, because there's so many that are displaced. I know RCB has also found places for people to stay, as well as a lot of areas. And I think over 100 schools were damaged in that blast as well.
Wow.
And so some of these schools 178 schools were damaged in the blast. And so, and even some of these may not recover.
Wow. And you've told me that, I mean, sometimes even just getting their money is an issue. If I've got money in the bank, I overnight, I can't get it because of the banking situation. Sometimes just money to eat is an issue. You've even had to send money over.
Yeah.
I mean, give us, can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, the banking situation is really challenging right now. Thinking that the bank is concerned about solvency or maybe panicking, they have frozen some accounts, so people just don't, do a whole run on the bank. But then they're also limiting how much you can pull out, and so that's really hard for some people that maybe they have bigger families or bigger needs, so they can't pull everything, at least out of the U.S. dollar accounts. And if they can pull it out, it has to come out in the local account, which has lost 80% of its value. So that's a real challenge right there.
So overnight, they lost 80% of their value if they had U.S. accounts.
It was a rapid process, but it started before the blast.
Okay.
So it's not the blast's fault necessarily. It's they, ever since October, they started having this unrest and shutting things down, and then COVID, and things just kept one after another building up.
Wow. I mean, things just kept getting worse. Brian, do you know if the U.S. government is doing anything to help, and other governments at all?
I know France in particular is, in fact, I think France has actually visited. I just got a video of some French planes flying over, but that's one of their favorite countries. They were.
It was a colony of France.
Yes, they were a colony of France for a time, and so France has a special connection there, and so they're helping. As far as I know, I think the U.S. wants to help. They're concerned about, will the money get where it needs to go? There's, again, political concerns in there going on, because if you send it in, is it going to go to someone they don't want?
Yeah, of course.
So I'll leave it at that.
And they do speak French over there. Again, I know you're watching, you're listening, you're saying, I'm going through my own situation, COVID-19. We've made a little contribution as the Nehemiah Project. I'm sure Brian has been helping. If you can help, go to that GoFundMe or find a resource that you trust based on the things that Brian mentioned and help out. Sometimes the seeds that we sow in our own, as we face our own challenges, are the very seeds that move the heart of God. In other words, giving is not always a convenience thing, right? I mean, that's the reality. But the question is, am I better off than somebody else? right? Because somebody who cannot eat at all is worse off than somebody who may even not have a job but can eat. Somebody who has a job is better than somebody who have a job but is just minimal. Somebody else have a job. In other words, there are degrees of suffering, there are degrees of pain. And so whatever your pain is right now, know that somebody is going through worse pain. And so whatever you can do to help, reach out to Brian directly or to these organizations. Brian, let's talk about it a little bit. I mean, the globe is suffering right now. You have COVID-19. You've got, in the U.S., we've got our own racial situation. Why would you expect people to help as they go through their own pains?
Well, we're called to help. And also, you look at it, and as bad as we think we have it here, it's worse in Lebanon. We're not bleeding, mostly not bleeding. And when you reach out to help others, it helps us take the focus off ourselves, and it gives us a better perspective. So right now, Lebanon is in real crisis. Most people in the U.S., they're going to find a way to get by. There's going to be some resources available to help pull them through if they ask for it, and for the most part, people will find them. Lebanon is in triage mode. They need to be bailed out because there is no way they can do it by themselves. This is just the condition they're in right now. We would like to see that someday they get to a point where they're self-sustaining and back, and it's very possible. But right now, it's someone who's injured in an accident needs immediate help, and they can't help themselves. So that's why we give.
Yeah. So we need good Samaritans, essentially.
Exactly.
Yeah, good Samaritans. And so that's people like Wanji who are there, and these are people that, as we help them, they can in turn help others on the ground, right? It's like a chain.
Yeah.
Well, Brian, thank you so much for what you're doing for Lebanon. Again, if you are watching this, listening, you are in Africa, you may think your situation is bad, but think about Lebanon and what they're in. If you are in Asia, you may think your situation is bad. Think about Lebanon. If you are in Latin America, think about your situation, but then think about Lebanon. In other words, you're not in the midst of feel like a war zone almost. And that's the difference here. So reach out, pray, and support. Brian, somebody like a Wanji is listening and watching right now, and they're in Lebanon now. Could you say a word of encouragement? What would you say to them? That because they can obviously feel like, you know what, God has forgotten Lebanon. I mean, we don't matter. And what would you say to them to keep going? What word of encouragement would you say to them?
Well, God has not forgotten Lebanon. That's not who he is. And that we love Lebanon. We love you. We want to see you succeed and grow. And we are here by your side no matter what.
Wow, well said. Amen. The Bible says that I've been, as a psalmist puts it, I've been young and I've been old. He's never seen the righteous forsaken nor his seed beg bread. That is true whether you are in America, whether you're in Lebanon, whether you are in Africa, whether you're in Asia, no matter what your circumstance and situation. Many of those people were in very dire situation as they even wrote scripture. Think about the Apostle Paul from the prisons saying, rejoice in the Lord. Gentleness be known to all men. Rejoice. Robert, Brian, there are people who are watching and listening, and the globe has faced COVID-19. The U.S., we have COVID-19, we have the racial tension. We also have, of course, our political uncertainty, right? Where both sides say, if whoever wins, America is destroyed as we know it. so somehow November 5th, I think, is it 5th? November 6th? November is the end of America as we know it, no matter who wins, because both parties are promising that if the other guy wins, is the end of America as we know it.
Yeah.
What would you say to encourage those of us who are not in Lebanon, but we are going through ourselves?
Regarding what, the end of the world?
There are some of us who are not in Lebanon. We may be in Africa, in Asia, or in America, and we're facing our own situation. Can you say what would you encourage us?
Well, I've read the end of the book, and we win.
Amen.
So it doesn't matter what happens now. It's how are we faithful? How are we participating in this journey? Are we participating with Christ, or are we working against him? And so, as bad as it seems right now, it can always get worse. But in the end, we know we win. And so we have that great hope.
And that we do, my friends. Matter of fact, here's what Wendy said. And what he's writing in Lebanon, here's what he says. He said, Lebanon is written in the Bible more than 100 times. God will not let us down. What a word of faith. And you know what's interesting, Brian? America is written nowhere in the Bible. But Lebanon is, God is true to his word and his promises. I love it. Wendy, hold on to that, my friend. I love what Brian said. We all have read the end of the book. As a matter of fact, I just finished Revelations in my Bible reading. I'm back now to Genesis. And you're right, Brian. We do win in the end. We do win. That's a promise. Now, how we get there is a whole nother story. But one thing for certain, we do win. A friend of mine told me, he said, you know what? It's like watching a movie or watching a game, a sports game, oh, I'm sorry, not watching it. It's if you know, they tell you what the score is, right? You know that your favorite team won. But you get home and you want to watch the game, and you really, as you watch it, they're losing all the way to the last 10 minutes of the game. Because you know what the outcome is, you're not afraid. Because somehow you know that in that last 10 minutes, something will happen. You don't know how, but you know what will happen because you heard the score and your team has won. Our team will win. Well, Brian, thank you so much, my friend. If you want to get in contact with Brian, put his email up, guys. Go to Brian at kingdombizcoaching.com. Brian is the home office trainer and coach with Nehemiah Project. Brian is with ideas. If you want to get involved with the classes that Brian teaches, go to nehemiahecommunity.com. You can enroll in the training or take advantage of the coaching program that Brian does and can be a part. Well, Brian, any closing words, my friend, before we let you go?
Well, I just want to thank everyone for those that are actively involved in praying for Lebanon, and just continue to keep Lebanon in your prayers, and just thank you for your faithfulness.
Awesome. And Brian, you are welcome. Thank you for your commitment to the least of these. Hey, if you're watching this, you enjoyed it, please share this. Share this with your friends. Share this with family. Put on your social media page so that others might be encouraged as well and maybe come around Brian and support the great country of Lebanon. Thank you so much, Wanji. Wanji said, God bless you. Thank you, Wanji. We do appreciate it. Share this. And by the way, add Lebanon in your prayers. Add Brian and Wanji in your prayers. Pray for them. The Bible says the prayers of the saint availeth much. If you can do nothing else, pray. Let's start a chain of prayer so that God may respond to the prayers of those living right now. And I know he can. Also, you can visit our website, nehemiahecommunity.com, nehemiahecommunity.com. There you can learn about our training program, our coaching program, or how to access capital as you seek to grow your own kingdom company. And more important than that, how you can become a part of our community so that together we can transform the world. If you want to join Brian to serve Lebanon or Kenya, whatever part of the world he's serving, just reach out to him or to us. We'll connect you with Brian so that you can be part of this winning team. Because in the end, we do win. Before I let you go, I do want to pray for you and then see you again. By the way, tomorrow and then next couple of days, we're going to have other guests. We're going to talk about the impact of Nehemiah Week and how you can take advantage of it if you missed it. And we'll, of course, also talk about transformational stories to help you as you walk out your kingdom business. Let me pray for you. May the Lord bless you. May the Lord enable you to steward those talents that he's placed under your care. And may you steward them in such a way that one day you might hear those wonderful words. Well done, good and faithful servant. You've been faithful over a few things. Guess what? He'll now make you rule over much. God bless you. See you again next time. Thank you, Brian. Love you guys so much.
Thank you, Patrice.